Hello, and welcome back for your daily dose of LOL Esports content, where I'm going to cover the games that took place today in the LPL, day one of their spring season, actually of season 14 in general, as well as LEC week 2, day 3. Predictions today, I went 6-1. I'm 31-19 on the season. The only one I did not get was, of course, the big upset for Vitality over G2, and we'll get into why that occurred in my opinion. So, first, we had Top Esports and BLG, a banger of a series, two of the top 5 teams in my power rankings. Those will be updated Wednesday morning. Keep in mind, when that does occur, I am not including Wednesday's games because I'm going to record it Tuesday night and then, put it up Wednesday morning prior to myself getting up in the morning, frankly. Or I might push it back to Wednesday. I may do that. I may do that and then upload it later on in the day. Do this daily dose early. Regardless, so Top Esports and BLG. BLG win 2-1. A series that I would say it was hard to really pick an MVP for. I ended up going with On in the end. I thought in Game 3 he was the difference maker. But throughout the series, you could argue it was a different player every game. So Game 1, BLG would win. They'd actually dominate. This was one of the more one-sided games we've had thus far this season. Over a 5K gold lead before 13 minutes when laning phase ended. A 21 CS lead for Knight. They were ahead 6-3 in plays. Sean on the brand all over the damn place. And frankly, he was the MVP. He invaded early, got T in behind, and there was a big fight in the bot side, 3-for-1, where Sean ended up getting a double on the brand, and that was a big deal. Top trying to respond. They took a Drake in mid and went mid as well, but 6-3 in plays, pretty lopsided. Now, Game 2, the other way. Top Esports pretty dominant. So laning phase ended around 13:20 with a 4K gold lead for Top Esports. The bot lane ahead 42 CS combined. Mako was disgusting in this one. I think he was on a Renata, if I recall correctly. And Callista Renata was just on another level. Jackie played Callista in all 3 games. I forget what the support for Mako was in Game 1, but it was Renata and then Soraka in Game 3. But nevertheless, very dominant. A few 2v2 kills, actually. Top heavily favoring going down there. Frankly, the only play BLG did was outplay a top esports bot lane dive. Otherwise, BLG were rather lackluster in this laning phase. They were massively behind in not only just gold, but also proactivity. They didn't have Drakes. They didn't have Grubs. Really didn't have much of anything. So, Game 2, the opposite way when it comes to the lopsidedness of the laning phase. And then in Game 3, another quick laning phase of 13:30. BLG ahead 3K gold. But the CS diffies were not huge. The biggest diff was actually only 8 CS in favor of Bin over 369. However, in this laning phase, BLG made 6 plays to Top Esports 3. It included a 2v2 kill for Elkanon, which I thought was important, as well as some key fights around top side, a few times actually, even looking back at this right now. And then as the game went along, the Renata for On was great. I mean, the handshakes were there, the alties were there, and it looked like Renata is that OP pick right now in the bot lane. A lot of people want to give it to Melio, but I think Renata, and maybe that's just a preference of mine, the fact that it is so proactive and an engaged champion, that I prefer the Renata. So, in terms of stats, Knight 13-4-12, 31%. Bin 4-2-15 had the best KDA. And then Cream 3-6-9, 32% of damage in the loss. Cream definitely behind Knight in this one by quite a bit. Not only in the stat sheet, but Knight was a lot more proactive on the LeBlanc. Cream trying to play Azir. Keep in mind, this is the first series of the season. And it's actually nice to see Cream play the Azir, something he's not normally known to play. This is the time to do that and get more comfortable on the champion. Afterwards, RNG, EDG. RNG 20th in my power rankings. EDG starting a rookie mid and support. So we say that, and on the board here I have 2 mids and an 80 carry, but Breathe was the MVP for RNG. And Ale, the MVP for EDG. So in game 1, Ale was disgusting on the Jacks. I mean, EDG were gapping them. He was at 21 CS in the laning phase over the Udyr for Breathe. And they had nothing. They had nothing for him. In late game team fights, really, like, it was pretty bad because RNG actually had an advantage 5-4 in the laning phase in terms of making plays. They had actually ended it quite strong, going Drake, going bot lane, going top lane to try and help Breathe. But Ale was so strong that they just couldn't kill the Jacks. And in the late game, he was just kind of going on his own side quest, and dominating the game. So very simple in that one. And then in game 2, it was the opposite. So Breathe was ahead 29 CS at the end of laning phase around 16-25. On the K'Sante, he outplayed the Jacks in this one. He's like, okay, you want to play Jacks? I'll play K'Sante. And Breathe dominated him in that, and then also was integral to team fights in the mid to late game. Keep in mind also, Ming really gapped Vampire throughout this entire series. Vampire, I think, he might have been first blood death in all 3 games. It was not a smooth debut for Vampire on the LPL stage. Let's put it that way. So RNG would end up going Drake. Let's see here. What else we got? EDG outplayed a dive, which was nice. Breathe had a solo kill on Ale in this one. Part of why I made him MVP. That led directly to the Rift Herald. They got a couple more kills top lane, and Breathe had a double kill before laning phase even ended. So as you could see by me even saying that, Breathe was, ahead by quite a lot, right? 29 CS, has all these kills over Ale. They're fighting around him. He is the valuable player in that one. And then in game 3, Breathe actually had 28 CS on the Kennen over Ale, gapping him. And then not only gapped him, I thought in team fights, in the mid game, he was the difference maker. And he played Kennen the way it's supposed to be played. We've been seeing these Kennens the last couple days in the LEC, just kind of like go looking for mushrooms in the jungle instead of actually getting into the middle of the team fight, ultiing, and dealing some DPM. And so, Breathe did that. Now, in the end, he did not lead the team in damage, but when you play K'Sante and Udyr in 2 of the games, it's going to happen. But on the Kennen, I'm sure he did lead the team in damage in that one. LWX did well throughout this series as well. He secured some objectives on the Kalista and also did well in team fights on the champion. I'd like to say that, alongside Ming. As far as EDG is concerned, they tried to help Fisher in Game 3. They went to mid lane a couple times. JJ was just one step behind Wei in this entire series. All 3 games I give RNG the edge in making plays. Overall, what do I have here? 18 to 11. So, an active 3-game series, 29 plays, but RNG definitely with the edge. Bot lane for EDG had a 15 CS lead at the end of laning phase in game 3. But like I said, Vampire was getting caught out in the early game, first blooded, and then also made plenty of mistakes in the mid to late game. That cost his team. And that's going to happen. He's a young player. EDG are not a team that we should be looking at as a team for spring. They are not an MSI threat. They are not an even real contender for the split at all. But in summer, you have to see growth out of those 2 young players. And also Leave, because I felt like Leave was not on the same page with his team in this one. Side quest also, as his team would die in the jungle. Jin as well being picked. A lot of people in the Discord not fans of Jin. So, in the end, Breather's MVP, Tangwan, 12-4-22, 30% of damage. That was a matchup that was important as well. Tangwan versus Fisher, 2 very young mid laners. Now, obviously, the experience is in Tangwan's favor, and that's why he did so well. He also had good roam timings, but Fisher was no slouch. LWX, 9-5-19, and Fisher, 6-10-15, 26% of damage in the loss. LEC, we have SK BDS. BDS would win Labrov was my MVP on the Blitzcrank again. The Blitzcrank, super strong for him. He flipped heads on it. He's able to secure kills, execute, getting caught out all over the damn place in this game. SK actually had a lead in this one, which is wild. They had a lead for a long time. Hell, at 15 minutes, the game was tied after they had a significant lead. They ended up going mid, getting a pick, getting grubs, going top, getting a pick. They were ahead by a lot. But BDS would win key team fights in the bot lane, in mid lane. SK would take a Drake, they'd lose a member. SK would take Rift Herald, they'd lose 2. Sheo with a double. And then Labrov just had hooks on point in the mid to late game. He brought in Niski, and it's like, okay, we're going to trade Niski for me. Niski's leading the team in damage. He's leading them in kills. He had an 8 CS lead. Irrelevant is a big question mark in this one. 38 CS lead at 15 minutes. Looking up here, SK took a trip topside to try and secure some prio up there and help him out. And he did not impact the game the way he needed to with that CS lead. He needed to gap Adam. Now, he did try and involve himself in other team fights, and that allowed Adam to get some gold, but the CS diff is still massive. The gold diff is still there. So, leaving a little bit to be desired there. And then it doesn't help that Exakick is being caught out all over the place. Isma into Sheo. Sheo made some mistakes getting picked off in the early game, but then recovered on the Xin Zhao. So, Ice 4-0-10, 36% of damage, cleaning up what Labrov gave him. Nuke 7-1-5 on the Nico. Niski 4-3-0, 31% of damage in the loss on Tristana. Fnatic and Giant X. Fnatic would win. We saw a way in the mid lane for Humanoid, and that was the difference. So a very slow early game. At 15 minutes, Fnatic have a slight 1k gold lead, but they're ahead big time in the jungle. Razork had 21 CS over Peach, and Wei and Humanoid survive the laning phase enough that he's able to take over the game, dealing 40% of damage in the mid-game team fights that turn this game around. Especially, oh no, it's not there. But really, actually, this is something interesting too. This early game was Giant X favorite. I mean, they went bot lane. They were able to get a 2v2 kill. But Fnatic responded by going mid a couple times, and that there is where Humanoid was able to take over, putting Jackie's behind on the Tristana. Jackie's does lead the team in damage, similar to Niski in the other game. Tristana, strong mid lane pick, one of my favorite mid lane flexes there are between mid and AD carry, or frankly just in general. Now, in terms of plays, it was 5-5 in the laning phase. It just wasn't, they had no answer for the way. Giant X just didn't. And Ignar being on Ashe just doesn't sit well with me. Their composition was not what they'd been using, and I understand you're 2-4 now, so you're 2-3 going into it. You're not winning with what you're doing, but I think Ignar is best on engaged champions, going in, making something happen, not range stuff like an Ashe. And I understand that's what's meta, but at the same time, that is, you're giving up a lot by taking Ignar off of something engage oriented. Mad Lions and Rogue. Rogue look awful. They look like one of the worst teams in the 4 major regions right now. They're not proactive. They just lose the game. They just lose the game in laning phase. Like, they got outplayed 10-2 by Mad Lions. Larson is on TF. He got one playoff, and it was later on in the laning phase when the game is already lost, in my opinion. I say it all the time. If you have a mid lane champion that can roam global alties, it has to be used. You have to offset the opposition. And Frescowi on Akali, now this is definitely, they were like, hey, after yesterday with you on the Corki, we're going to put you on Akali in this one, and you know, you're going to have some ability to get out of there if you need to. But it's Larson just didn't do enough. One play. Marcoon is just being gapped by Elyoya. Now, Supa ends up being MVP because his Aphelios was disgusting in these team fights. And in all, actually, This was a split in terms of CS diffy at 15 minutes. Mad Lions had a 3.5K gold lead, but Rogue had leads in top and bot. Top lane 32 CS for Saskenda. He ends up leading the team in damage on the Aatrox, but that just wasn't enough. And Comp and Zoli's just weren't doing it in team fights like Supa and Alvaro were. Alvaro on the Blitzcrank, he got picked off once or twice, but Alvaro is the real deal. And Mirwin in top lane did his job as well. He did not die. That's important. On the Kesante, after a couple games that made you kind of scratch your head and say, okay, we need to calm down. The rookie needs to calm down a bit. And he goes on the Kesante, and he does his job. Saskenda wins the lane, but doesn't win the game. And Mirwin's able to impact it when he needed to. I mean, looking at this laning phase, I mean, Mad Lions are all over the place. Like I said, 10-2. And Aphelios, I mean, Supa had a triple kill at Grubs, the second time around. They said it was a clean ace. I don't believe it. I don't think it was. So, Supa with a triple kill there. And then he just kind of had all this gold, right? So, he's able to buy items and deal more damage. So, Rogue looking awful. They are just lost. And it's funny because I'm looking at Rogue and KC right now in the bottom 2 of winter. And I keep sharing the winter standings from last year in the Discord anytime people are writing off teams at the bottom, because both teams, Fnatic and Excel, that were in the bottom 2 that did not even get to groups in winter, both made season finals. So this isn't to write off Rogue, but they are playing like dog shit. That is 100% certain. Vitality in G2. G2 had a happy game. They played Seraphine Sona bot lane and tried to have some fun. And unfortunately for predictors, that was not good because obviously everybody picked G2 and Vitality won. So slow laning phase. This is the slowest one of the year. 1845, Vitality had a 1.8k gold lead, 6-3 in plays. In terms of CS diff, they had 29 CS in top and jungle. Maybe not. Maybe it was top were ahead 29 CS, and then bot lane 32, whereas G2 were ahead 29 in the jungle. There's a lot of CS here for G2 that they were ahead and couldn't do anything with it. Yike having a lead on Vi over a Maokai. The usefulness of a Maokai over a Vi is such a diffy. Like that, I say it all the time about Maokai. That ulti is game breaking. You need to. I know Silas. No one's picking Silas, so he must stink, right? I'm just gonna assume that he stinks on season 14. But to take that ulti and have it for yourself, man, that really washes out a lot of that power the Maokai has. And I mean, Daglas on the champion was securing objectives and kills with that champion. And anybody really can, except Canyon at Worlds 2022, but that's another topic. That was a topic a couple of years ago. Hilly ends up being MVP in this one. Oh, by the way, yeah, I said Supa ends up being MVP in that one. Humanoid in the Fnatic game. But Hilly, MVP, flipped heads. That bot lane flipped heads. G2, obviously, like I said, the happy game. But his Senna was nasty. Getting kills across the rift on his with his ulti. Getting a bunch of souls, Neela and Senna bot. It was quite a diffy. Laning phase would end with Karzi getting a double to go up that gold lead, and the game kind of just was slow and steady. I mean, it went to Elder. We haven't had a lot of games go to Elder this year, and I mean, I didn't even go over the stats of the previous one. Supa went 907, 37%. Mir went 3011, Saskenda 540, and 41% of damage. Now for Vitality G2, Vethio 328, 31%. Hilly 509. Broken Blade 041, 35% of damage on the Yone. Lastly, Heretics Carmine Corp. Yankos outpaced Bo in this one. Bo had a CS lead of 21. And hell, Cabo had a 10 CS lead over Wonder in a Scion versus Kesante matchup, which surprised me. And I understand Casey took a trip up there, but still. Wonder was nasty in team fights. And Perks ends up dealing 40% of the team's damage. I'm sure a lot of people are going to give him credit. But there's a mid-game team fight where Wonder, if I recall, just dives in and takes the blow in place of Perks and protects Perks in that team fight that then was turned in Heretic's favor. And I think that's what kind of did it in for KC. KC giving Bo Lilia again. And them not finding a way to win. Saken did fine on the Corki. Cabo is on what you want him to be on, a facilitator tank. Like, this is the sort of composition you want KC to have. You could argue Saken on Corki, but he did fine, so I don't blame him. Aphelios for Upset. Upset just going 0-1-1, not dealing with a lot of damage. A lot of people want to blame Targamas because I think he's the easy target, right? You have the two French players that obviously aren't going to get a lot of heat from the fan base. You're going to have Bo, who's everybody likes because he's good at the game mechanically. And then there's Upset. And Upset has a fan base as well. Whereas Targamas, he's going to be the guy that they're going to kind of blame. And I understand he hasn't played great. But at the same time, given expectations of these players, who Targamas may be playing the least, the least bad, if you will, compared to what we expected out of him. So, I mean, it was a dominant performance. Jankos, like I said, pacing Bo at times, being all over the place. He was affecting the Rift. They made 7 plays to 3. What do we got? Perks 413, 40%. Kaiser Deathless 12 assists on the Melio. Saken 220, 34% of damage in the loss. Sneak peek for tomorrow. We got 2 LPL series. Team World Elite versus OMG. Last time they played, OMG would win 2-1. 4 of the 10 players remain from that series. Supports are the same. So PP got 2-4, 22, 8% of damage. Iwanvi 1-7, 21, 7% in the loss. After that, we have FPX and Anyone's Legend. Last time they played, Anyone's Legend would win 2-1. Only 2 players of the starting 10 are going to start tomorrow. And that Xiaolahu and Care for FPX on the losing side of that one. Xiaolahu went 4-6-11 and 21% in the loss. Both of those series are not as lopsided as that you may think they are. We saw today in this one, you got that middle group of competitive LPL teams with, a mix of good players and meh players on them. And it's going to be a slugfest for who wins those games and who doesn't. And that's kind of been the case in the LPL, at least the whole time I've been watching it. So I expect those 2 series to be tight. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.